Welcome back, everybody. This is the thejonnymar, and this is the finale of the main game of Final Fantasy I Dawn of Souls, the PSP version. So last time we took out Chaos, the evolved form, I guess you want to say, of Garland in the past, 2,000 years in the past to be specific, and apparently we severed a time loop that's been going on for a long period of time, which hopefully means now peace is able to prevail and that time loop has been defeated so that the world doesn't have to worry about the crystals and all of the forces getting out of control ever again. And that's a very small and short and concise summary of what the next 10 or so minutes of this video is going to be showing you, which is a redundant and very, very long explanation about what happened. So this game is infamous in some ways for not really telling you why you're doing the things that you're doing, and especially in the original version of this game. So basically you go about, you have to restore the light to all of the crystals. That's kind of your goal throughout the game. And then they throw this very unusual kind of out of nowhere storyline element of time travel and a time loop. A time paradox at you as the game gets close to its end. And I always felt that was very forced. Now, I've never really completed the NES version. I got about halfway through. I don't like the NES version too much, and I think part of that is because I really didn't play it as a kid. I think a huge part of really liking old games is having experienced those games in your youth, and so you have that nostalgia lens to look through. Now, I do like this game quite a bit. I think it's an okay entry in the series. It's definitely a good entry for the first game in the series, but I would definitely recommend that people play some of the remastered versions. So at least play the GBA version or this version of the game. I thought the PSP version was very nice. I enjoyed playing it. I think also the PS1 version that comes with Dawn of Souls and is also, not Dawn of Souls, Origins, and is available on PSN. I think that's a good version too. The issue with that version, in a way, is that it has the spell charge system of the original. So, in a way, it's actually a better version to play if you want to experience the most kind of authentic version of the game that's slightly upgraded, so that you don't have to worry about the elements of the original that kind of get tedious. And that is the grinding, the lack of direction, and the graphics that aren't really that great. I mean, they're okay for the time. Certainly for an NES game and an early NES game to boot. The graphics are certainly fine. And you can get the original NES version of the game on Virtual Console, at least on the Wii. I don't know if they've released it for Wii U yet. That is where I have my version of the game. But I have seen the NES version completely through. I watched a couple LPs about it, which is why I could talk about the differences between them. And like I mentioned, there's really no reason to play the NES version unless you kind of have that nostalgia element, or you just want to experience the original version of the game. It really is better to play one of the remastered versions. So hopefully you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane as we've experienced this game. I've talked over this narrative because, as I said, it's kind of redundant, and in a lot of ways it's lazy to me for creators of a game to add kind of a long storyline element at the end of the game after you've beaten it, kind of trying to explain why you did the things that you were doing. Now, this game is, of course, a culprit of that. Other games are worse culprits of that, but it's just something I don't like about, especially an RPG, where you invest so much time into them, and the game should be driven so much by storyline. And it's just weird to have to fight Garland again. Now, they did add elements of that into later games. This game certainly set the groundwork for later Final Fantasies. We're going to see a lot of the elements that this game brought to the forefront in later games in the series. And I do plan on playing through all of the games in the series eventually. In terms of LPing, I have actually beaten all of the games in the series except Final Fantasy XIII. I just can't stomach completing that game for whatever reason. But I will someday, don't worry. But next up for us, in terms of this series, is a little bit of a break. So I'm going to take a break from the series for a little while, and then, I don't know, maybe a month or so, maybe less, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take on the bonus dungeons in this game. So that includes the Earth Gift Shrine, which we unlocked by beating Lich. That also includes the Hellfire Chasm that we unlocked by beating Merilith. And also a couple other ones, the Lifespring Grotto, which is actually a pretty long one, and the Whisperwind Cove. Now what's awesome about all those bonus dungeons is that they add quite a few elements to the game in terms of bosses that you face in later games in the series, and also items that you get later in the series. So if you are playing the NES version, this is it. Once you beat Chaos, the game is over. But when you are playing one of those remakes, either the GBA or the PSP version, you do get these extra elements. So that will add, as I've mentioned before, roughly 7 or so, maybe a little bit more, hours to the adventure. Now I won't be showing you all of that because a lot of it is retracing your steps, especially the Earth Gift Shrine. Because you have to go through that shrine numerous times, I think 4 or 5 times in total, to get to the end where you have to take on a bunch of mini-bosses to get items. So I'll be doing that. And what I'll ultimately do is probably just cut to the bosses. But we are the Bringer of Light, and we know it's over because the little birds flew through there. And no, it's not over in terms of the credits. We still have all of that to watch. Now what's cool about this first part of the credits is they do show you some still art from the remastered opening that they did for this version of the game, which is pretty awesome. I didn't actually record that, and I might actually do that. I might go back and record it and add it maybe as like a prologue to this series. Kind of gives you a glimpse of what they could do with this game. Now they did a lot in terms of redoing the character sprites in that. And it's certainly the best looking of the Final Fantasy I versions. But with current graphics technology, they could do a lot more with this game. But it's balancing that nostalgia with kind of that newer technology and trying not to ruin it. Which I think is one of the main reasons why they haven't redone Final Fantasy VII, even though a lot of people want them to. That is it. All we're going to have now for the next 5 or so minutes, maybe a little bit longer, is a scroll of all of the people involved in the production of the game. So as I mentioned, viewers, I hope you enjoyed this experience. We're not quite done. I do have the extra dungeons to do, but I will be getting back to those in a very short while. And if you're watching this somewhere down the line, of course, that'll probably be done, so you can just move on to the next video. But for those of you that are following along as I'm doing these videos, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me, giving me feedback. And I have certainly appreciated that so many people seem to enjoy this series. Final Fantasy is one of my favorite series, and I do really enjoy doing these games. So that's about all I have to say. Enjoy the rest of the credits, and I will see you all in my next episode when we take on the bonus dungeons. So long, viewers.